Hello, I'm Herrick Kimball, and today in this video I am going to show you a better way to wire the connections for these slim LED lights that go in the ceiling. These have become very popular in recent years. I actually have 47 of them in the downstairs of my house. They use less electricity, and according to the box, these will last 22 years if used 6 hours per day. That remains to be seen, whether they will last that long. But they do use a whole lot less electricity, and they put out a great light. I'm very satisfied with them. I have 15 in the room right behind me. Got 4 in this room. Those are all 6 inches. Maybe they're 7. Anyway, they're bigger than this 4-inch light. So I have a lot of experience hooking these up, and I can tell you, and you know this if you've tried to hook these up yourself, the box they give you, and this is it right here, is quite small. They don't give you a lot of room for making your connections. This particular box has a really cheesy recommended DIY way of hooking your Romex connectors into it. And what I have here is 12 gauge wire. All the breakers in my house, except for 2, the smoke alarms and a lighting circuit in the kitchen, are all 20 amp breakers with 12 gauge wire. You've got more capacity. I just feel better having that. The problem is when you go to wire 12 gauge or 14, which is more common for light circuits, 12 gauge wire is about the thickness of a nickel. 14 gauge wire is about the thickness of a dime. The thinner wire is a whole lot more flexible. But even still, when you have 2 Romex wires coming into these little boxes, it's tough. It's just about impossible. In this instance, we would have the power coming in, here, and then it's going to feed this light. You connect your light with this. I'm assuming you know something about how these work. And then this line goes off to the other light, okay? And so on. There's not enough room in the box. That's the bottom line. Not enough room to make the connection, especially if you do it the way they recommend. So I'm going to tell you a better way. I think it's better. I think it's more logical. I think it's more intelligent. So let's close up here, and I'm going to show you what I recommend and what I have done on all the connections for all the lights in my house. See what you think. So we're not going to use these plastic connectors. Going to try to put them back the way they were. There. They're a bad idea. There. Got those back in place. These connectors here are Wago wannabes. The Wago connectors are like these, but they say Wago on them, and they have a reputation for being a very dependable and good new style connector, we'll call it. Since these are not Wagos, I am just going to cut them off. It's hard to remove these wires, so we're just going to snip them off, and in the process, I'm going to snip off the Wago, which was on this wire, this thin stranded wire. So we're going to get rid of the Wago wannabes like that. Truth be told, even if they were Wago, since I'm an old timer, I don't want them. So what we have is our hot, our neutral, our ground. And what I'm going to recommend to you is that you utilize a box connector. I call these box connectors. You will notice a knockout right there for the box connector, and you can just peel that right out of there. Use your pliers, comes right out. It's a 1/2 inch knockout. This is I call them 1/2 inch, but they're referred to as 3/8. And I want you to see something here. They have a long screw on them. It has a long screw, so you can open it a lot, and you can fit 2 Romex wires into it. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring both wires into one end right there. Before we do that, we'll put this in there. There's a little nut right here that you put on. You want to put it on tight. You want to get it as tight as you can. And there is a little bit of a trick to it. You notice I have it turned this way, and I've got it finger tight right here. And then I hold that, kind of hold some pressure on the inside on that nut, and turn this that way. And that is good and tight. Then what we're going to do is strip our wires. This is, of course, a whole lot easier on the dining room table as opposed to up in the air, but the principle's the same. It's a whole lot easier to photograph this. I strip my wires. We'll come back 3 or 4 inches here by going lightly down there and then very lightly right there. I'll show you another way to do it. You can pull that off, get your paper out of there. The other way of stripping wires is to get one of these things right here. I used to use this when I started out. Works quite well. And I like to do that very light cross slice. You know, I didn't go through. It's very light. You can pull that off. You can also grab it with these and pull it off. It's actually easier. Now this is important. You see, you've got both your wires here, like this, and you want to put them together so that the white is with the white, the ground, and the black. And that's not the case there. I need to turn it over. Now we have a logical alignment here. Then we want to line them up right here, all right? Then we're going to get some electrical tape. We're going to essentially take 2 wires and make them like 1 wire going in. So what I recommend is that you visually come down a 1/4 inch, okay? Don't bring it right up to the end. Give it a 1/4 inch and wrap it tight. Make sure they're right on top of each other. And wrap it tight, down a short ways. Double wrap it if you like. But we're leaving a 1/4 inch right here. And now we're going to go into our connector, just like this. We're going to have that 1/4 inch of Romex that I did not tape showing there. And then we're going to tighten down on the wire. This right here, if you're not familiar, is a special screwdriver made by Ideal for tightening the screws here on these and on your receptacles and your switches. It's better than a regular Phillips, much better. How tight do you make these? Just snug them up. You don't have to crank them way down. You just want to snug them up, okay? So now what we have here is our white over here. We have our black over here. We've got our ground right here. And we're going to start making our connections with the ground. We don't have a lot of room in here, but we've got enough. So right here is the edge of the box, the end of the box, and I'm going to snip these ground wires back. Actually, I'm going to pull my ground wire so I've got a little loop of it there, a little extra here. I'm going to snip them right pretty much to the end, not all the way to the end. Then we're going to take and twist these 2 Romex solid wires, the 12 gauge. We're going to get a good twist on them, all right? All right, like that, okay? Then you see how they Y off there? Well, we're going to snip that off. We don't want that. Snip them straight across. And take your ground and spiral it around like that and have a little bit stick out the end like that. Then we're going to take a yellow wire nut right here. I'm not going to jam it on there. I'm going to very carefully get it seated there a little bit and then just start twisting it on, okay? Twist it on by hand. And then when it gets hard to twist by hand, get your pliers on there and give it a little bit more of a twist, all right? So then you tug on that stranded wire. Make sure it's a good connection. That's very important. You want a good connection. And then I tuck that right down out of the way. We're going to go for the white wires next. We're going to snip the 2 Romex, the 12 gauge wires, back a little ways. I've got maybe a 1/4 inch space there. So after those are cut, I'm going to strip them with my simple Ideal 45-120 wire cutters. I'm going to finger gauge it. See my finger right there? I'm going to come down solid, stranded. These numbers are for the solid wire when you strip it, and these over here are for stranded. So I'm at 12 gauge. I'm going to come just below my finger and strip that off. I'm going to put my finger on there again, come just below it and strip it off. It should be about the same, and they are. So then I'm going to twist these. You can't go wrong if you twist these together. You might go wrong if you don't, okay? So I've got my Y here. I'm gonna snip that off right at the end, okay? I've got maybe 1/2 inch there. I'm going to now strip this thin stranded wire. And I don't know the gauge, but I'm going to start at 16, and I'm going to squeeze the pliers and kind of push. It will strip, okay? But it's actually the 18. It's right there. So I'm going to strip more. Now I'm not squeezing and twisting. You don't want to twist. I've seen guys with Romex, they squeeze and then they do like this circular business. In so doing, they're putting a little ring around the wire. That's not good. So what we want to do here is just squeeze and pull, and you don't want to lose any wires. And I just did. Look at these. This is excellent to be able to show you. Look at that. I cut these wires. You're not supposed to do that. So I'm going to come right down here. I'm going to start all over, because sometimes you do that. Well, what's wrong with those cutters? Now that's why I cut these as long as I could, right at the base of the Wago. So here we're going to come in here, go to the 16, we'll give it a pull, and I guess that's what I'm going to use, because that doesn't cut the wires. We'll go back to the 16. I'm looking right here. That says 16. I want to get more than I had. There we go. Now we've got a nice stripped area. It's about thumb width plus a little. And I'm going to twist those together. That's important. And then I'm going to spiral that up. I'm lining up the white insulation on the stranded wire with the white here, okay? And then I'm going to twist it around. I'm going to twist it around, and I want it to be right to the very end, and if a little bit is sticking up, all the better. Get our wire nut on there, not jamming it down. I'm just getting it lightly onto the top of those wires and starting to twist, and it'll pull itself right onto there. Right onto there. We don't have any wires showing here. You don't want that. Finger tight, and then get a few twists in there with your pliers. You want that on good and tight. Give it a tug. Give it a tug. Make sure it's good and tight. All right. If you feel like, hey, maybe I ought to tighten that a little bit more, do it. Then once that's done, you're going to push that right down there next to the ground. Okay, so that leaves us with our black wires to make the connection.
I'm going to cut these back. The same deal. I'm going to put my finger gauge on there. Go to the 12 gauge, 12, strip it off. 12, strip it, twist them together. Snip off the Y end right there. And I've got about a 1/2 inch there.
We want to strip our stranded wire without breaking any strands, and I succeeded there. Okay, get it a little bit longer than the Romex. Twist it, twist it, twist it. Line it up right there. Bring it around. Okay, now this one is a little bit longer. You can see that. I think I've got a little bit extra sticking up past. That's ideal.
Okay, get the wire nut on very gently. When it touches down, turn. My hand, my finger tightness, get your pliers on. Get it good and tight.
Give it the tug. Make sure that stranded wire is tight, and push it down. See that? Nice and orderly, organized. And look at the lid. That's it. That's better by far than that mess that I showed early on. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you in the next video.